Good morning, everyone. Why so much less strength is there for the classes? Since last 2 or 3 classes, I am seeing that very less people are coming and joining for the classes. Only 70 or 75 people. You don't want to attend the obstetric classes or gynae classes? What is the problem? I want each and everyone to join the classes. We are going to conduct your exam, complete portion of obstetrics and gynecology in last week of this September. Full exam will be there, and after that we are going to do CMEs and case presentations. Everything will be finishing our top portion till then, and in last week of September we'll be having exam. So last time, as we are discussing regarding social obstetric, in continuation with that, today we are going to see some more features in social obstetrics. So as I told you, in RCH MCH programs there are various yojanas has been done by Ministry of Family Health and Family Welfare for reducing maternal and fetal mortality and morbidity. So one of the program is Janani Suraksha Yojana, or it is known as JSY. So this is the Janani Suraksha Yojana is a component of NRHM, that is National Rural Health Mission, and this is by inaugurated by our Prime Minister. So Janani Suraksha Yojana is the national maternity benefit scheme. It's a national maternity, it is a monetary benefit scheme, and it is modified, it is launched on 12th April 2005 with the objectives. What is the objective of this Janani Suraksha Yojana? The objective is reducing maternal and infant mortality. By how we are going to reduce the maternal mortality and infant mortality? Through institutional delivery. So mainly the it is for the institutional delivery among the women below the poverty line. So this is very important. So as per definition, Janani Suraksha Yojana is a safe motherhood intervention under the National Rural Health Mission, being implemented with the objective of reducing maternal neonatal mortality by promoting institutional delivery among the poor pregnant women. This is JSY is a centrally sponsored scheme, and which is implemented in all throughout India. So in all all states and all union territories, with the objective of reducing maternal and infant mortality by promoting institutional delivery. So main aim is to promote the institutional deliveries by reducing for reduction in maternal and infant mortality. So what is the vision of JSY? JSY vision is to promote institutional delivery. Aim is to reduce aim is to reduce maternal mortality and infant mortality, and to promote the institutional deliveries. So what are the strategies by JSY? So for the JSY, they have, it is mainly, initially it was for main 10 low performing states, LPS, what it is called as. There are high performing states and low performing state. So 10 states we are low performing state, where there is a more maternal mortality is there, more infant mortality is there, like Uttaranchal, Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, Assam, Bihar, Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, then states like this one. So is then 10 states, they are low performing states. They are low performing. So this was mainly for these states, and they have found out some workers, which is called as a ASHA. ASHA is accredited social health activist. It is accredited social health activist, is called as a ASHA. So in this states, mainly the ASHA workers, and in other states the ASHA like activities, or the Anganwadi workers. So the strategy of JSY is what these ASHA workers and this Anganwadi workers will do. They will first they will go to the so there are three, it is judged by 3 levels. So in the basic levels, these ASHA workers or these Anganwadi workers, what they will do, they will notify the pregnant ladies in their surroundings. So they have been given one part of the villages or this one where some population has been allotted to these ASHA workers and Anganwadi workers. So they will register first, do the registration of early registration of the antenatal woman. So not the previously it is after 5th month they used to come for the antenatal checkup, but this is not immediately as she has become pregnant. There should be early registration. The strategy is mainly early registration, so that the mortality or morbidity in first trimester, that is in 3 months of pregnancy due to abortions, ectopics, whatever else can be taken care of. So early registration is important. Then identification of the second thing is identification of the complicated cases. So they have been divided into low risk category and high risk category. Next time we'll discuss high risk pregnancy, in that I will tell you. And after registration, they will be given one JSY card and one MCH card also. So they will have the 2 cards. So identification of the complicated cases like previous obstetric history, previous cesarean section, preeclampsia, hypertension, antepartum hemorrhage, early first trimester hemorrhage, like that, so and so. Twins, multiple pregnancies. Then they will see that at least this pregnant woman will have 3 antenatal checkups. Those are very important, and this will take care in the antenatal period and also in the postnatal period. So then PNC visits will be there. Then they will organize the referral services. They will see that when they will do the registration, they will take this antenatal patient for routine antenatal checkups to the primary health centers, and see that they will be getting delivered at primary health centers. If there are high risk cases, where they should refer to the tertiary care center, the transport facilities, then convergence with ICDS involving Anganwadi workers. Then there is will do the transparent and timely disbursement of cash. The JSY strategy is mainly the monetary basis. So immediately after delivery, there will be some amount of money will be given to the pregnant lady. Then there is 24/7 delivery services at PHCs. These ASHA workers and Anganwadi workers will accompany this lady, the pregnant lady, to the primary health center. They will stay there when she is there in the hospital, either for normal delivery or for cesarean section. In the advice, they will give the advice for diet, the small problems which can happen during pregnancy, what are the red flag signs where they should immediately report to the primary health centers or referral centers. Then if it's functional, then building partnership. It is mainly this Anganwadi workers or ASHA workers are the bridge between the antenatal woman, that is the base to the healthcare providers. So this is a gap, this bridging of the gap is done by this ASHA workers and Anganwadi workers. So this LPS status, eligibility of cash assistance, they will be given some cash. So depending upon the low performing states and high performing states. So all pregnant women delivering in government health centers like or subcenter, PHC, CSC, CFI, functional referral units, then general wards of district and state hospitals or accredited private institution. In low performing state, all the pregnant ladies will be included. But in high performing state, only the pregnant ladies age 19 years and above below the poverty line will be included, are eligible for getting a cash assistance. But even in LPS or HPS, all ST and SC women delivering in government centers, health or accredited private centers are included, are eligible for getting the cash assistance. So already we discussed this role of ASHA is identify, facilitate registration, assisted opting certification, 3 antenatal visits, giving a card, organizing delivery care, counseling for breastfeeding, neonatal immunization for 14 weeks after delivery, then for neonatal care, family planning advices, motivate them for family planning. So all this is the role of ASHA worker in this one. So what is the monetary benefits they will get? In lower is LPS. In LPS in rural area, if the package will be 1400 rupees, they will get. If it is a in rural area, and in urban area they will get 1000 rupees. But in a high performing state they will get 700 rupees, and 600 in urban area they will get 600 rupees. and for home delivery they will get 500 rupees. So what is more important is by train birth attendant, that is also home delivery by train attendant. So as far as possible avoid home deliveries and go for the institutional deliveries. So this is one sort of attraction. So if you give giving some monetary benefits, they will go for institutional delivery, and if the institutional deliveries increase, that indirectly will help in reduction of maternal mortality and morbidity, and so the national population can be there. The second scheme in this our social obstetrics or to reduce the maternal and mortality and morbidity is Janani Shishu Suraksha Karyakram. This is JSY Janani Suraksha Yojana. JSSK, this is the program. So why there was a need, if there one is JSY is there, why there was need for Janani Sishu Suraksha Karyakram? So why it has started, because the even though they are getting monetary benefits of around 1400 rupees is low performing states, but still it was not sufficient. It is not sufficient. They have to put some amount of money from their pockets for to going to the institution for deliveries, and same for the neonatal care also. So that amount is absolutely not sufficient. So still, even though there is a say, this yojanas has been going in all under NRHS scheme, still there was people, women who are delivering at home and not going for the institution. So there was a need for this another program. So JSSK was launched in June 1st, 2011, and mainly it is the Haryana. As I told you, Haryana, Punjab, these are low performing states. So this is in collaboration with Ministry of Family Welfare and Health and NRHM, National Rural Health Mission. So what is there in this scheme is free services. Everything is free. Free services to all pregnant women and sick neonate, but they are only to coming to the government health institutions. And there is cashless service. This is along with GSY. That is they will get monetary benefits. Along with that, they will get cashless services to the pregnant woman, including even though it is for normal delivery or cesarean section, it will be all cashless. This is to be implemented in all government hospitals across the states and union territories, and it is assured that there will be total free maternity services up to 14 days, 42 days after delivery, and newborn care up to 30 days to all beneficiaries. It will be for all beneficiaries, not LPS, HPS, SC, ST, it will be included in all beneficiaries in all government institution. So it is irrespective of financial status, either it is a below poverty line or not, everyone will get cashless facilities. It is entitled to receive, and along with this cashless facility for delivery, free transport, drugs, consumable, bloods, everything will be, diagnostics, everything will be free. They will get free diet during stay, 3 days for the delivery, normal delivery, 7 days for cesarean section. So it supplements cash incentives of JSY. And this JSSK, Janani Shishu Suraksha Karyakram, will bound to benefit 1 crore pregnant women, mothers and neonates. So, and there will be increased health, access to the healthcare to 70 lakh mothers delivering at home. Still 70 lakhs, even if with GSY is there, still 70 lakh women were delivering at home. So this is for them more beneficial. So rationale of launching this, why we should need for this program. So there were 67,000 women die every year due to pregnancy related causes, and 13 lakh infants die within 1 year of birth. 9 lakh newborn die within first 4 weeks. So this is very important. First 4 weeks, 9 lakh newborn die within first 4 weeks. And out of that, 7 lakh neonates die within first week. So first week, from 9 lakh which are infants die in 4 weeks, the first week is very important, because out of that 7 lakh neonates died within the first week. So there is already we know that there is a decline in infant mortality ratio, MMR, but it's not to meet the MDHO targets under NRHM. 25% of pregnant women still hesitate to go to access to the government hospitals or access to the health institution. And those who opt for institutional delivery don't stay more than 48 hours. They immediately, either it is through the institution or with them. So factors affecting accessibility. So why these people, these women are not going to the government institutions for delivering? Why they prefer to deliver at home, or they're not able to go, not prefer, not able to go also. So this is high out of pocket expenses on charges of OPD, diagnostic, it's blood, purchasing medicine, other consumables, escalating cost of cesarean section operations, and other logistics, food, transport, everything. So what is the goal of JSSK? The goal of JSSK is provision for maternal and newborn care. So this is most important. So the mother is taken care of everything in under this one of JSSK. Then a continuum care approach till 30 days of delivery. This ensuring care during critical periods of delivery and postnatal period. Then addressing the need of the mother and the newborn. Ensure a seamless transition from home to village to facility and back again. They are being provided transport from home to the government institute and again back to home. Then free and zero expense delivery and cesarean section, free drugs and consumables, free essential and desirable diagnostic, blood, urine test, ultrasound during antenatal care, intranatal care and postnatal care, free diet, free provision of blood, free transport home to the hospital, intra-hospital, drop back to the home. Again, if they are referred to the tertiary center, there also transport is free and again back home. Then this is regarding the mother. So newborn is also entitled for the same treatment till 30 days after delivery. So it is a free and zero expenses treatment for newborn. Drugs, consumables, diagnostics, provision of blood, transport back home, and all kinds of user charges are exempted for newborns also. So this is 3Ds more important, where they have to spend the money. So these are 3Ds has been taken care in JSSK: drugs, consumable, diagnostics, and diet. So all essentials to be given free of cost during antenatal, intranatal, and postnatal, and up to 6 weeks. So everything is given free: antenatal, intranatal, postnatal, and 6 weeks. The neonates are to be given priority treatment. Diagnostic: all investigation required prior to normal or cesarean delivery to be made free of cost and applies to neonates also. So for any investigation for neonates also free. Then diet. So sometimes what happen, if they go to the institutional deliveries, then there will not be proper food supplied to them. So they don't prefer, because so nobody, no, the person has to go, one person has to stay with them, one has to go back and come. They will not get proper timely food, this one. So the non-availability diet also demotivate mother from staying at least 48 hours, this one, they immediately want to go. So providing food. Then blood. So requirement, if they want to get the blood, then they want to have some assistance should be there, that blood group this should be available. Then it's requirement of blood transfusion, because main cause of maternal mortality is still anemia and postpartum hemorrhage, sepsis. So all these things can be taken care if the blood facilities are available free of cost. So it will be provided free of cost without user charges. Then exemption from user charges: OPD, OPD admissions, diagnostic tests, blood, expert, where if they go to the private labs, there will be so much of charges for the investigation which has been taken. Then referral, transport. Why they were not going? Because still there are so many villages where there are not proper road facilities are not there. There are tribal people, they are not coming. Still there are so many people, ladies are coming in the bullock carts from the tribal areas. So no proper transport facilities are available there. If they give the referral transport elevates, they need not find any private vehicles for that. So every time there will be healthcare facilities are available for that transport from home to a hospital and again back to home. And then elevate other expenses. So implementing the new initiative, there are three levels it has been implemented. It is a state level and district level and base level. So and this action at state level taken. At district level it is under the district collector, and in the state level it is the Ministry of Family Health and Welfare. And then at the base level, so dissemination of amendments in public domain ensure drugs consumables, strengthen the diagnostic, ensures provision of diet, ensures availability of blood, exemption from all kinds of user charges, referral transport, grievance redressal, if there is a maternal mortality or morbidity or neonatal mortality, why it has happened. So it has been, the medical officer will send this one to the district collector. Then there will be meetings with the in the district office, DMHO, and all these things, funds and monetary follow-up. So all this we know that action at the state levels, action at district levels, dissemination of public domain, ensures of drugs and consumables, blood transport facilities, so that exemption from all kinds of charges. So issue GO for exemption of any user-free pregnant woman neonate up to 30 days of public health services. It should be, that is more important, is ensure no area left uncovered. So there should be 24/7 services in all areas. Any mode of transport can be used, government vehicles, 130, total free, toll-free number at district and state levels. Take action designated into time frame, convey complaint. If the complaints has been taken, the actions are proper actions has been taken. Proper records has been maintained, records, linkages to inaccessible areas, besides the free transport through print, electronic media, monitor services, that is more important. So all set up the help desk facilities, redressal grievance facilities, then to meet the complaint and address their grievances, fix the hours, that is also very important, so that they can have the complaints regarding the facilities given in the government health institution. Then take the action against a time frame and convey to the complaint, maintain proper records, monitoring of the funds which has been, it is a state district level, and respective nodal officers will monitor the progress. This is Janani Shishu Suraksha Karyakram, that is nil out-of-pocket expenses in all government health institutions for pregnant women and newborn. So they are entitlement for pregnant women and the newborn till 30 days of. So all these are the drugs given free. Implementation of this program, transport, referral, cashless services, blood. This is all for normal delivery also, and for cesarean section also. And then the next, this one, in that we will see this PCPNDT Act. So all of you must be hearing that PCPNDT. So what is this PCPNDT? First it will be, first it was only PNDT, that is prenatal diagnostic test. So this is preconceptional, and that's been improved initially in 1994. It was come into force, but it was implemented in 2003, and the name was changed from PNDT to PCPNDT, that is Preconception and Prenatal Diagnostic Technique. This is a Prohibition of Sex Selection Act. This is mainly a Prohibition of Sex Selection Act. It rules has been formed in 1996, but this act is implemented in 2003. So you must have been that why, what was the importance of this act? Though so many act has been, PCPNDT Act. Everyone is, all the gynecologists, sonologists are very much worried about the PCPNDT Act, because why this act has come into the work? Why? Because there was a decreasing sex ratio. All of you know that there was, and why there is a decrease in the sex ratio? Because of the female infanticide. So there was the number of females born as compared to number of male fetuses born. The female, the number is reducing, and because of the female infanticide with prenatal diagnostic techniques, diagnosing the sex of the fetus and doing female infanticide. So this act has been formed for that term. So what is the objective of the law? The objectives of the laws is, this is the prohibitory and regulatory. This act is acts as both. It is a prohibitory act and regulatory act. So it is prohibits a sex selection. This is the most important objective of this law. It is either before conception or after conception. Then regulate the prenatal diagnostic techniques for detecting genetic and metabolic disorders or chromosomal abnormalities and certain congenital malformation and sex-linked disorders. See, when we do some diagnostic tests, there's both, it has all good and bad part. So good part is that this prenatal diagnostic test has been used for detecting genetic and metabolic disorders, chromosomal abnormalities, sex-linked disorders, congenital malformations. But the people are using for that bad sex selection and doing female infanticide. So the objective of this law has been this, and then prevent misuse of such techniques for the purpose of sex determination of female feticide. So what is included in this? There are three parts are been included in a prenatal diagnostic test. PCPNDT Act is the genetic counseling centers, then genetic clinics, and genetic laboratories. So all these are been included in this come under PCPNDT Act. So prenatal, what are the prenatal diagnostic tests? So this includes ultrasound also, where because it has been analysis of amniotic fluid, chorionic villi, blood, any tissue fluid, any test used to detect genetic disorders, metabolic disorders, chromosomal, congenital abnormality, hemoglobinopathies, sex-linked disorders. This is prenatal. Then in some cases, because some sex-linked disorders are there, they will do the sex selection. So this sex selection include what is the procedure, technique, test, administration, prescription, provision for the purpose of ensuring and increasing the probability of that embryo will be of a particular sex. So then I already told you these three people are been these three are being included under PCPNDT Act, that is GCC, Genetic Counseling Centers, Genetic Laboratories and Genetic Clinics. So no genetic counseling center and laboratory or clinic, they has to register under PCPNDT Act. Unless registered, they cannot work. So they has to register under PCPNDT. Then if unless registered, they cannot conduct, associate or help any conducting activities relating to prenatal diagnostic techniques, then can employ or take services of any person, honorary or payment, who does not possess the qualifications. So here, whenever you go to, if you are coming in the OPD, there will be all one in or either in a radiology department, in ultrasound, where we have kept the ultrasound machine, there will be one certificate of registration has been put. If you go, you can see that is a, and every 1 year we have to renew that. Previously it used to be given for lifelong, but now they are not giving for lifelong. After 2014 it has been coming that every yearly we have to, they will come for inspection. There are so many things in this. So registration of the centers has been very important. Even it is a government center or if it is a private center, it has to be registered. So no medical genesis points, though no medical geneticist, gynecologist, pediatrician, doctor, or any other person can conduct or cause to be conduct and aid in conducting by himself or through any other person any prenatal diagnostic technique other than a registered place. So the place also should be registered. That's what I'm saying. So where we have the premises also should be registered. The machine also should be registered. The premises also should be registered, and the person conducting also should be registered. So everything should be registered. Previously, so many, if you have you must have heard that people used to carry the ultrasound machine and they used to roam all over the city or in the villages to do the ultrasound. But nowadays it is not that. Your premises also, you cannot move the machine from your premises. From one room to other room you can move, but you cannot move from one premises to other premises. So your premises also should be registered. Then a sonologist or a doctor has also should be registered. He should have the proper training to undergo this all procedures, and the machine also should be registered. So what does the law allow? Does the law allow the conduct PNDT, that is preconception and prenatal diagnostic test? Yes, the law allows us to do it. Conduct of prenatal diagnostic techniques is allowed only by where, in which cases it is allowed. So to detection of chromosomal abnormalities, genetic metabolic diseases, hemoglobinopathies, sex-linked genetic diseases, inborn errors of metabolism, anomalies, other defects or diseases specified by the Central Advisory Supervisory Board. Now, then when can the PNDT be conducted? Techniques can be used or conducted only when any of the following condition exists. When we should do the prenatal diagnostic test. So any woman above 35 years, pregnant woman who has undergone more than 2 spontaneous abortions or fetal loss, where the other causes have been ruled out, pregnant woman has been exposed to potentially teratogenic such as drugs, radiation, infections or chemicals, pregnant woman and her spouse has a family history of mental retardation and mainly Down syndrome, physical deformity as a spasticity and genetic diseases, any other condition specified by the Central Supervisory Board. There we can go for PNDT. So, as already I told you, it is mandatory that the person conducting the ultrasound on a pregnant woman to keep complete records in the clinic. So, what are these records? Here I want to something. There are different forms are available. So, the genetic counseling centers has to fill the form or D form. So, genetic counseling center will fill the test which has been done. They will fill the form D. Then in a genetic clinics, they will genetic laboratories, sorry, in genetic laboratories they will fill the form E, and in genetic clinics like where the ultrasounds has been there, they will fill the form F. So always you must have in form F, form F, form F. So it is very important to fill the form F. So in papers you must have read so many times that so many doctors have been booked for not keeping the records properly or doing sex selection. If the records are proper, then there is no legal actions to be taken on the doctor. So record maintaining is very important. So these various forms, and there is a H form where all these records of all the ultrasound centers has been kept in appropriate authorities web. So every monthly the record should be sent to the appropriate authority. That is very important. Duly filled registration form number F in ultrasound has to be sent. In that form, the pregnant lady who is undergoing ultrasound has to sign that she doesn't want to know the sex of the baby. The person conducting, that is a sonologist, doctor, gynecologist, whoever it is, has to certify that I have not conducted any sex determination test or not conducted and not disclosed. So both these things has to be shared on this woman particular name so and so, and he has to sign. So the patient sign is over there, the doctor sign is there, and it has to be in the form before she has to go for that one, and after doing that, and the record also should be signed by the doctor. So this is very important, and the record should be kept at least for 5 years. That is very important. And every monthly the record either by the electronic data has to send to the appropriate authorities. So the appropriate authorities have as a power of a code, of a district code, they have power. So they can at any point of their time, they can come, they can inspect your premises, inspect your record, inspect your machine, then they can do, if it is not proper, they can shut your center also. So, and see the machine also. And if they can this appropriate authority can put the doctor's name where they have found a guilty to the state to the MCI medical center, and their registration also of the doctor can be cancelled if they are found guilty of doing sex selection. So when can a person conduct PND procedures? So no person will conduct the prenatal diagnostic procedure unless it is explained he has to explain all the side effects, after effects of the procedure to this pregnant woman, in that the consent is very important. Obtain her written consent to undergo the procedure in the language she understands. It should be in her own language. And copy of the written consent is also to be given along with the report. So report copy should be kept with us and kept given to the patient also. So no person will open any genetic counseling center or clinic laboratory, including clinic, laboratory or center, having technology capable of undertaking determination of sex of the fetus and sex selection, unless I told you the such center, clinic and laboratory is duly registered separately or jointly. It has to be separately registered. So the center also should be registered, some machine and the person. No person, including a relative or husband of the pregnant woman, will seek or encourage the conduct of prenatal diagnostics technique, sex selection technique, and hereby except for the medical reason. So always outside any, if you go to the ultrasound room, there inside and outside, sex determination is not done here. It has to be written in their local languages. So and the boards it should be kept inside and outside premises also. No person, including the person conducting a prenatal diagnostic technique, will communicate to the pregnant woman or her relatives or any other person the sex of the fetus by words or signs or any other manner. Then prohibition of advertisement of center, laboratory and clinic. There should not be any advertisement of the clinic. Issues published, distribute, they should not do anything. This is also included under prohibition of advertisement, or communicate any advertisement regarding prenatal determination or preconception sex selection by any means, even if it is a scientific. So there should not be any advertisement for that. So offenses. So if they found guilty or if there is any by the appropriate authority, so what are the offenses? If any person acts contrary to the prohibition listed in the act, he will be liable to the punished. So he'll be liable to get punished for 3-year imprisonment and up to 10,000 rupees of fine if it is a first offense. And if it is a subsequent offense, then he will get at least 5 years of imprisonment and 50,000 to 1 lakh fine can be done, and his name will go to state medical board, and there it can his license of practicing can get, his or her license can get cancelled. So in a case of person seeking the aid and the bodies and person of sex selection conducting prenatal diagnostic technique or any pregnant woman for the purpose other than those specified in the act, he is liable to get this one I already told you. So in case of a doctor, his name will be reported to the appropriate authority, State Medical Council, for necessary action. Suspension of registration if the charges framed by the court until the case is disposed, and removal of his name. That is very important. See, removal of his name from the register of the council on the conviction of for the period of 5 years. His name will be removed from the registered, 5 years for the first offense and permanently for the subsequent offense. So not only for the 5 years imprisonment and 1 lakh this one, but permanently his name will be removed from the registry. The next, this one is Laksha program. So this is all the parts of social obstetrics to improve the maternal maternal health and decrease maternal morbidity and mortality. So what is this Laksha program? This Laksha program is labor room quality improvement initiative. So this is everything is been done in good faith and in favor of reducing maternal and neonatal mortality and morbidity. So this Laksha is the labor room quality improvement initiative guidelines. All this I'm telling you in detail because you can get a short note or get a long question also in social obstetrics. So this is very important. All this has been taken. I know you, all of you know all this in your SPM or community medicine classes, but as an obstetrician, it's my to tell you in detail this all. Thank you. So this Laksha labor room quality improvement initiative guidelines these are started initially in Karnataka. It is from the state. It has initially started with the state. It was not all over this one. So it started in 18 and 19 in Karnataka, and the goal of this Laksha is to reduce the preventable maternal and neonatal morbidity, mortality, stillbirths associated with the care. And what this guidelines are mainly to offer good care in and around the delivery and after delivery, in the labor room and in the OT, that is operation theatre, and to ensure the respectful maternity care. So RMC also is a part of these guidelines, Laksha guidelines. So always you must have been in a newspaper, you will read the news like this masala in government hospitals have a baby and get abuses for free. So you know, so many people, the ladies must have told that they will hit when during labor, they will shout, they will see foul languages, all these things we know. That's been there, and so many women doesn't want to go for the deliveries to the institutions, to the government institution mainly for their further, because they have a bad experience of the first from the either with the relatives or their own experience for the first deliveries. So Lakshya is all about improving the quality of care around the birth. So this is the most important. You must have remembered that our nanis, dadis used to say that is a second life for a woman. So she is going through such a horrible experience, and if the proper tender loving care is not given at that point of time, she will remember the bad memories. And some people are very scared of going for the second delivery, this one, when who have the bad experience with their first labor. So there is quality certification of labor room and or OT through existing system. So what is the target is attainment of at least 75% of facility level targets. At least 80% beneficiaries are satisfied with the care. So this is the main target. There should be at least no 100% no will be satisfied. So at least 80% beneficiaries should be satisfied, and at least 75% facilities to be given. This is Lakshya program. So labor room, what should be done and what should not be done in labor room. So whenever you enter a labor room, I always tell you, so you should always the uh, privacy of the laboring woman, that is very important. So providing privacy to pregnant woman during the intrapartum period by way of separate labor rooms, or at least private cubicles, or at least putting curtains in between two this one. This is for under labor room initiative guidelines. Then presence of birth companion, I will tell you, companion during the labor. Freedom to choose a comfortable position during birthing, not necessary they should be in a lithotomy position or dorsal position. They can take their position what they want. Adherence to clinical protocols for management of labor. Use of labor beds instead of tables. Place the baby on the mother's abdomen immediately after delivery, not putting into. So kangaroo care is very important. Initiation of immediate breastfeeding within 1 hour or half an hour of immediately after delivery, normal delivery, and within 1 to 1.5 hours after cesarean section, she has been shifted to the recovery room. What should not be done? Induction and augmentation of labor without any sound clinical indications, any verbal and physical abuse. That is very, very, very important. In government institutions, you have seen, must have seen that ayahs, the sisters, will very abusive language to the woman, insisting on conventional lithotomy position for the delivery, immediate clamping and cutting of the umbilical cord, separating the baby from the mother for routine care procedures, out-of-pocket expenditure, OOPE means out-of-pocket expenditure on drugs, diagnostic, demand of staff, gratitudes payment, families, celebration of the baby's birth. This should not be done. So what is the objective of this Lakshya program? To reduce maternal and newborn mortality and morbidity due to antepartum hemorrhage, postpartum hemorrhage, retained placenta, preterm, preeclampsia, eclampsia, obstetric labor, puerperal sepsis, newborn asphyxia sepsis, all other obstetrical complications. To improve the quality of care during delivery and immediate postpartum care, stabilization of complications, ensure timely referrals, and enables the effective two-way follow-up system through mother to the beneficiaries, to the healthcare workers, and both ways. And to enhance the satisfaction of beneficiaries visiting the healthcare facilities and providing RMC, respectful maternity care, to all pregnant women attending the public health facility. So this is very important, RMC, respectful maternity care. So NAQ's areas of concern are all service provision, patient rights, inputs, support services, clinical care, infection control, quality management, and outcome. This is all included in this program. So achieve of Lakshya team is it is national level, state level, district level, and facility level at this. So this is national monitoring group, state monitoring group, coaching team, quality circles, LR, OT rooms. Everyone should be there. So it has been divided into the 6 different cycle phasing of the activities. So 2 months assess preparatory phase, 2 months assessment phase, 2 months, then improvement phase is 2 months, and the explanation phase 2 months. So components of QSC improvement in labor room. So assessment, improvement dimensions, enables, and outcome. So baseline assessment using guidelines for labor room. How should be the ideal labor room should be there? What are the standardization? What are the kits? Then there is a structural improvement and process improvements. So in structural improvements is labor room standardization, dimensions, labor room tables, disposables available, then human resources strengthening. So it is labor room certification outcome. Then process improvement, so quality care, quality circles, rapid improvement cycles, companions, improved maternal health, stillbirths, and newborn health indicators. So interventions was that is support cognitive development, delivery. What is the interventions done? Delivery of respectful maternity care, rapid improvement events, adherence to clinical protocols, structural improvement, infrastructure improvement, equipment, good equipments, drugs, disposables. So promoting respectful maternity care and cognitive development for the baby. This is all included in this. So rapid improvement events, this is included in 6 cycles. So what are the cycle 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6? So in cycle 1, that is real, you know, all of you know that is a partogram is used for monitoring of the laboring woman. And by putting a partograph where the she is progressing properly or not, where action line and alert line will be there. So the staff can know when to transfer or when to intervene. So real-time partograph generation, including shift to electronic partogram, usage of safe birth checklist, surgical safety checklist, strengthening of documentation practice for generating the robust data. Documentation is very important during labor, after labor. If anything adverse effects that can be instead of if you have a proper documents. Then presence of birth companion during delivery, respectful maternity care, enhancement of patient satisfaction. Then as a third is assessment, triage, timely management of complications, including the strengthening of referral protocols. Fourth one is management of labor as per protocols. So protocol, labor protocol management. Every hospital has their own protocols for labor management, but it should be according to the FOXI. Always we say that FOXI guidelines, IOCG guidelines, then other guidelines, so RCOG guidelines, all these guidelines are for this protocol. That is active management of third stage of labor, AMTSL, and rational use of oxytocin. Then in cycle 5 is essential and emergency care for newborn preterm babies, including management of birth asphyxia, timely initiation of breastfeeding, as well as preterm newborn base. And the most important is infection prevention and control, including biomedical waste management. This is very, very important. Then this in structural improvement, there is a upgrading of infrastructure as per norms, realistic of caseloads. According to the caseload, there should be number of labor rooms available, human resource augmentation, number of staffs, their training, their upscaling, upgrade of their skill through various modulations, skill modulars, ensuring availability of functional caliber equipment. Good equipment should be available. If we have a good structure, but if equipment is not working properly, like multi-para monitors, various monitors, BP apparatus, all this should function properly. CTG, strengthening of supply chain of drugs and consumable. So proper supply, the amount of drugs should be available. Then process of improvement is assessment and triage, enables respectful care, management of labor, including active management, third stage of labor, management of complication, high-risk pregnancy, management of referral services, perioperative process for cesarean section, newborn care, resuscitation, management and required supportive services. So in operation theater also, There is zoning in OT, protective, clean area, sterile area, disposable area. So this is all reception, waiting, trolley, changing rooms, rooms for administrative staff, store, record, conferences room, clean area, pre-operative, post-operative, plaster room, staff lounges, stores, sterile area, operating theater, scrub rooms, anesthesia, setup rooms, disposable area, dirty utility, disposable each OT, corridor leading to disposable zone, and disposable corridor. This all come into Lakshya in it. Operation theaters, there should be functional pre and post operative care, dedicated nursing staff for pre and post operative area, availability of essential equipment, maintenance, calibration of that equipment, cleaning and disinfection protocols, availability of anesthesia services, monitoring indicators, and the list of the facilities. All this. Then in Lakshya program, one is we have seen this respectful maternity care and labor companion. So this is Dr. Mishra. This is very beautiful slide of this. I have show I have got. So I want you to see this. Discussing the what is respect. What does it means to be respectful? So as a human beings, we all have feelings, emotions. We all feel pain. We'll bleed all when there is a cut. So work to provide ourselves, and we all human beings work to provide for ourselves, to our families, good care. Then we always expect to be treated with respect, either at home, at workplaces, as public places, family, and in the community too. We all, whatever, even though it is a as a human being, everyone wants respect, to be treated respectfully. So respectful for ourselves guides and morals, respect for other guides and our manners, and we don't need to share the same opinions for others, but we need to be open. This is very Taylor and Swift said that we want ourselves to be treated as with respect, but others we don't treat with respect. So we should take up notice of the regards as worthy, honor, and self-esteem personal qualities. So compassion, kindness, respect are the very essence of dignified care, and we must make sure that this principle at the heart of everything we do. So the respectful maternity care here, so the both will respect. So it is a care. Care is effective communication, positive attitude, respect for the patients, caregivers, staff, and environment conducive to the care and really. So freedom from what we should give, where we should give a respect and a care. The common respectful care is freedom from discrimination, where along with age, sex, their socio-economic status, religion, there should not be any discrimination for the laboring woman. Explanation of procedures, answer to all the questions, their consent taking. There should not be any discrimination between whether she is well educated, she is not well educated. It has to be explained in their own language. So disrespect, discrimination, harassments, and bullying. So the vision and values, which will provide a range of services that will reach out to the community and meet the individual needs with everyone count. So it has to be equity. Human rights is equity. Greeting of the patient, introducing yourself, asking to then what the complaints are there. You have to listen to them carefully and treat as an individual. Then responsive, to listen and work plans to meet the needs and improve the health, being and inclusion. So we should respect their rights and choices. So companion of labor here, that is they can vote for anybody as their companion in labor. Either that can be a spouse or any relative, female relative, or any other health worker that can be a companion. So you should respect their decision. You should be sensitive and discreet how you can give information and handle the information. The language, it should not use any abusive languages. Fairness, very supportive and not should be judgmental in approaches. Then give caring, and will deliver our services with respect, compassion, and understanding, where people are values and will act in their best interest. And it should be ethical, promoting a culture of dignity and respect with dignity and with all commitments. So the respectful maternity care includes the dignified care, consented care, confidential. This is very important to maintaining the confidentiality. The one, non-abandonment in care, no physical abuse, no abuse related to cost and related dentition, and equity in access. Everyone, every laboring woman should have access to all the. So this RMC, why does it matter and why does it matter? For the reputation, professionalism, quality of the care, patient safety, services use and health outcomes, provider safety, satisfaction. So what is the barrier for this is giving so much of respectful maternity care. So in a government institutions and where there are number of deliveries per day, you cannot give a respectful maternity care in each and every. So the main important is the constraint of the place, the staff constraint everywhere. So should not be, but as far as possible, try to implement and the respectful maternity care. So should not be freedom for, they have the rights of freedom from harm, ill treatment, right of information, consent, refusal, they were refusal for the treatment, preferences of the choice, confidentially privacy, dignity and respect. So it respect for beliefs, traditions, culture, empowerment of woman and her family to become active participant in healthcare, then continuity of care, right to information and privacy, good communication. That is very, very important. So good communication between the care providers and the beneficiaries and evidence-based practitioners. So these are FIGO medical ethics guidelines. What is the principle? What is the definition? What is lead to RMC? So it is a dignified care, no physical abuse, consent is taken, and equity in access to justice. So this is so inherent imbalance in power and knowledge between providers and client results in increase in patient vulnerability and also concomitant dependency. It is obligatory of a part of care providers to be independent and informed decision making by patients. Violation of human rights destroys the trust essential to the healthcare and healing process. So always it has to be adhered to the respectful maternity care. An opportunity is to care for and care about our commitments, to challenge, to meet and exceed the client expectations, and a chance for everyone to create the right and impressive for both clients and providers. So to promote the right to a respectful maternity care, this is RMC.